like what I'll call the executive summary version, and it won't have all the details I want to detail in the
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 o'clock and time for the Economic Development Committee meeting. Starting off with courtesy of the floor, since we see no one, we'll move on to number 2, discussion regarding the Community Development Block Grant Awareness and Annual Action Plan due to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and I thank Tim for his glasses.
Yeah, absolutely. I found another pair.
And you rented another
Actually, I'd like to tell you, it's my habit to bring you folks a success story before every meeting, and if you don't mind, Madam Chair, I'd like to preface with a short success story. In your packets, there is a miscalculated number, so I'm going to correct that right now. The department's been very active in community and economic development facilitating over the last 6 months, and to date in 2017 a total of $6,275,000 has been attracted to priority projects in which the DCED is an active partner. We had a $50,000 expectation for one of the BBT grants. Thank you. For one of the BBT grants, and that only came out to be $200,000. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of that, and I promise you this is going to be a very quick meeting. We're just going to try and get the information to you, answer any questions, and then let you go. This success story, excuse me, involves a HUD grant that Frank Brooks and Mike Brett went after, and as you know, we received 1.5. We were notified that we're going to receive 1.5 million. We have partners of Easton and Bethlehem, and between the three of us, we're going to divvy up that money. And the county is the lead on the grant, so we're going to actually manage the grant. And the purpose of it is to substitute for funds out of our affordable housing expense for rehabbing houses with lead remediation problems. So we're going to save a lot of money, in many cases up to 40% of the cost of rehabbing a house by using this lead grant money. You need me to wait, Linda? Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so the HUD Led Grant is the first 1.5 million, and 150,000 is an additional amount we got for things like replacing smoke detectors and mold remediation in the homes in which we utilize the lead grant funds. Then, on top of that, we had $700,000 secured through the BB&T Economic Development Growth Fund at the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation. That's those bottom three numbers. The Lehigh Valley Industrial Park 7 got $250,000 for the construction of the Bethlehem Manufacturing Center. This is a shell building that we've been working on with LVEDC for quite some time, and this is over at Commerce Center Parkway. Bethlehem Economic Development Corporation and its partners got $250,000 for the creation of a revolving loan fund for the remediation of blighted properties in the city of Bethlehem. We've been in a number of conversations with them. We've provided resources, and we provided a letter of support and indicated that the county would support the process because it supports our process as well.
What's the status on the shell building? Is that complete?
On the shell building, this $250,000 is actually the initial money coming in. Then once they have everything situated, there will be an outreach to the Northampton County, right, which is the GPA, the IDA, and the June job scores. So that'll be an infusion of incentive funds, and then the developer will take it from there.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, it's very early stage, but this funding kind of validates the process and says, yeah, it's a good idea, we should do that.
And is there any picking on who the tenant might be, and is it just a first come, first serve, or is there some kind of...
Mark?
With any luck, they'll be able to identify an anchor tenant before they go to construction, but it'll be the kind of thing, you're building it on spec. So whoever's willing to come up and sign the lease for the right amount of money, that's who's gonna go in.
Oh, no, I definitely, I'd agree
And-
that it's
and
neither.
we're-
I'm just wondering if it's just whoever the first person is to go for it, or is there some kind of...
We're designing,
targeting?
we're definitely targeting small manufacturers and like technology companies. We'd love to get somebody that's spinning out of Ben Franklin that needs a place, those types of companies. But, once...
Just that, obviously that not putting someone in there that's going to be out of business in 6 months,
Oh, no.
or something.
I mean, they will be vetted, and like, you're signing a multi-year, probably, I would imagine at least a 5 or 10-year lease on a space like that. So, like, there's going to be, you're basically going through bank underwriting when you're taking out a lease like that.
There's a lot of demand for this, too.
There's a lot. I had two questions. One was, what's the square footage on the shell building?
This one is around 40,000 square feet. The range that we asked for was between 20 and 80, and we try to indicate in our RFP when we send it out that that's the area that LVEDC has targeted and said they've had many companies come, want to move into the Lehigh Valley, and there's just no inventory for the buildings that size and good flex manufacturing buildings.
So you should have a waiting list for this building. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, I guess in one conversation, the expectation was that it would be either sold or leased before it was completed. But you don't know with that. But there are lots of companies out there that want to move into this part of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I think Don Cunningham said our inventory was at about 4.4% right now,
Yeah.
and 3/4 of that is old and needs
Yeah, I get that.
rehabilitation. So
Okay.
it's not much.
Develop a waiting list, because a lot of times if somebody comes in, they need space, or they're looking
Yeah.
for space, and you say, I can deliver it to you in 18 to 24 months, and they need it in 3 to 6 months, they move on, they just go to the next
Yeah.
one.
But there's plenty of them out there.
Is this incentivized in any way? What incentives to are you getting ready to put incentives on this building to move it?
So
How's that?
the way we envision this project, and again, it's very, very early. It hasn't been presented to all the different partners. So, what we're conceptualizing for this particular project, you have the BB&T funds, which are grant funds that don't have to be paid back. So that's almost like equity into the project. And then, depending on, they're going to use those 250 to really get some detailed engineering so that we get a better handle on what the costs are going to be to construct it. And then we're going to take this to the development partnership and find out who wants to be like an investor in the project. None of it is anticipated to be grant dollars. It's either going to be an equity investment or some kind of debt into the project. And, as the project is stabilized and it's rented out, or there's a tenant, or the building is sold, the equity investment comes back to the partners to reinvest in other projects.
Okay.
So it's not...
There's no tax rebates set up on this thing?
So the location of this, it may be located in a LRTA, that if it is sold to a private developer, they may be able to take advantage of the LRTA incentive, which I believe is a tax abatement. It's basically, I think, for 10 years, and they forgive like 10% each year.
So that's not that's only if it's in that area. That's not.
I'm pretty sure it probably is in the
Okay.
LRTA,
All right.
but I am not sure how that works. I guess LVIP may be applying to take advantage of that
I would think
as a
so.
nonprofit. I would think that they would. They're going to own the building initially, and then that would be passed on.
Okay.
So there would be, I would imagine that they would take advantage of the
All
LRTA.
right. Thanks.
about the equity or the private equity for the private debt holder? Who would they, I know you probably don't have names, but like give me some background on people that would do that.
Well, so
I missed that last
So
one.
we're looking for the Northampton County Development Partnership to make that investment. So between the General Purpose Authority, the Industrial Development Authority, and the New Jobs Corps, they would decide how much money they want to invest as equity into the project. And
it wouldn't be private equity.
No. And then LVIP is going to be putting in
Okay. That's what I thought.
equity
You said
into the
that I was
project.
thinking private equity, so it wouldn't be private. It wouldn't be. Yeah, I get it.
It'd be equity from a nonprofit plus the partnership.
Right.
Yeah. And the partnership, they're the GDP is set up for this kind of loan or, arrangement so that while we would administrate the process because we administrate the GDP, it's really the GDP's GPA's, thank you.
Yeah, I know you
GPA's, that's their process, yeah. Acronymoses. Are there any questions, additional questions?
They're bank-owned. Are we talking about banks right now? Any of this investment, are we talking about banks that are investing in this?
So BB&T
BB&T
is
and
a bank.
exclusive?
And they set up a, what is
Growth
the?
fund.
Economic Development Growth Fund
Okay.
within the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation.
Yes.
And they've made these grants.
You made 8
They-
grants.
They made,
So they
granted
created
out
I got
1.4
it.
million or
Okay.
something.
They don't, it's not that, huh? No, I just wanted to, just
I
a
think
question.
there was some, I don't know
They
that it was
won't lose
100%
money.
voluntary.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we didn't have any,
Yep. No, that was their funding that helped. But we've been involved in these because of the shell building and really encouraging the process as we go along. Mark spent a lot of time not only doing research but also working with LVIP and the partners to get everybody on board. And there's a lot of relationship building in this process, and so we've really been trying to hone that skill. And as we've been doing that, we've started to see some nice returns.
Hey, Tim, I have a problem. Whenever I see numbers, I start adding them up. So, for this $750,000, right? So you got.
It's 700. It's 700,000.
Okay.
The bottom Easton is a 200,000. Your paperwork is incorrect. It says when we wrote this up, we were expecting 250, 250, and 250, and when they made the awards, it was 200 to Easton, not 250. So it should say 6,275,000, not 6,325,000. That $50,000 is what didn't get awarded to Easton, and that's where our error is in your
Okay.
packets only. I corrected it on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the last 200 is the city of Easton, and 175 of that, 125 of that will go to the Da Vinci Science Center for their master plan, and 75 goes for parking and hotel studies. And as you know, we've been intimately involved with the city of Easton and with the Da Vinci Science Center as long as we've been here, and so we continue to keep that relationship active and stay a part of all of that. So we put support letters in for all of these grants. And we chose not to do a grant, realizing that if we instead supported our partners, a larger amount of money would come into the county, and these more projects would get done than just the one or two that we would be able to do. So it was a good choice. So it's $700,000 that came in. We also told you last month that Mark worked on a BIOS grant, and we heard that. That grant was awarded $3.9 million. That'll go to the Green Knights Economic Development Corporation. They're developing the Beers site, the tire site up in Wind Gap and Bushkill and the confluence up there. So we were instrumental not only in finding that grant, but in applying for it. And we Mark spent a lot of time with Green Knights and pushing that project forward. The idea is to get the project's environmental circumstance so well taken care of that companies that want to come in, and there'll be 8 to 10 sites there when they're finished, will be able to just start vertical. And all the ground level stuff will be done. So that's our hope, and there's lots of money going into that. As you know, a $650,000 grant went into them from EPA through us, and $100,000 of county money went into that. And all of that has been to remediate a really substantial environmental circumstance. So with all of this coming through, we feel really good that that site's going to produce 300 jobs, once we start getting those small manufacturing, because they're ideal for small manufacturing. The site design and the sizes are great. And also the last one I want to tell you about is $25,000. Mark applied. Last year we told you we wanted to do a historic asset inventory of the county, especially those assets that are amenable to economic development activities like agritourism. If you're going to have a wine tour, stop by these additional historic places. But we just didn't know what was out there. So we received a $25,000 grant, received the notice of that award just last week from the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission. So now that the paperwork for that will begin sometime in September, and then we'll be able to take the $50,000 that you guys provided in the budget and match that, and then work with Lehigh Valley Planning Commission to set up a plan to do this the right way and get this inventory. We're also going to be working with the Northampton County Historic and Genealogical Society, and Andrew's on board. And so we're really looking forward to be able to do a really good job with this. I think it's going to probably take about 18 months to complete the process because there's just so much to capture. I'm trying to get a university fellow from Lehigh University. They have a great program. They support a number of activities. Bethlehem just had them do their blight strategy last year. And if we can get one of those to come in, then we can target them. That's 15 hours a week for 12 months. And the total expense for that's about $9,600, so which we already have set aside. So if we can get that university fellow, and if we can do our planning with the Planning Commission and get everything, the strategy set up appropriately, this is going to be a really, really good thing. So thank you for the $50,000 that you agreed to last year, and we're happy that we're able to see that grant come in. So we've been working hard trying to get some money in and do the right things and get the projects going that we talked about. And one of the very important projects that we have is Cdbg. And Frank, I'm going to ask you to come up and handle that.
Another acronym.
Well, I'm very happy to be able to speak about Cdbg after the uncertainty of the funding. I had an initial public hearing, and the first time I can actually say to all the applicants, I said, I have no idea if we're going to be in business, we're going to get funding. But I'm here happy to report that I'm working on the action plan to be submitted to HUD by August 16th. So a little history on not only the Cdbg, but the action plan, which actually what I'd like to talk about tonight. And you all know that the County of Northampton is an entitlement community under HUD Cdbg program. And so in compliance with the HUD regulations, DCED has prepared the 2017 action plan. And that's going to cover the period of October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. Our action plan is a strategic guideline on how the county is going to spend our Cdbg funding. The plan includes the county's housing, capital improvement, and public service activity needs. This is the 6th annual action plan under the county's consolidated plan, another acronym that we use. The 2017 Community Development Action Plan is a collaborative effort between Northampton County, the community at large, our social service agencies, our housing providers, the community development agencies, and economic development groups. The planning process was accomplished through input received at public meetings and analysis of some of the data we received from HUD, a review of our comprehensive plan, as well as the needs of our municipal partners. So during the 2017 program year, DCED received notice that our allocation is going to be $1,383,422. So I'd like to go over the categories that DCED is recommending funding levels at. For public infrastructure projects, we're recommending funding at $624,225. Housing Funding recommendations are $275,000. Our public service funding is capped, and that's going to be at $207,513. Planning projects funding, we're recommending $172,000, and administrative funding is recommended at $104,684. For the 2017 application period, the county received 33 applications and funding requests that totaled $3.4 million. Out of the 33 applications submitted, 26 applications were funded. 12 were applicants that were new or had really innovative projects. We completed a SIP funding application that requested $125,840,000. If rewarded, we're going to match this with Cdbg funding, allowing 5 ADA applications that you see in front of you to be fully funded. The CD application by the Northampton Division of Children, Youth, and Family, we're going to use that to leverage to apply for a $150,000 emergency solutions grant for homeless prevention. So as you can see, council members, DCED has used the 2017 CDBG funding in a manner that leverages additional funding. And on the packet, you'll see all the funding recommendations and the projects that were submitted and the funding levels. Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Dietz.
When do we vote on these?
Well, you
I
have
have
to
a
review.
resolution for the August meeting.
And that's to be in the HUD in August.
Yeah, August 16th.
I have a couple questions on the the list of awards.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the ones that were not recommended. Catholic Charities, Housing and Utility Assistance. Why was that one denied? For
We're going to
religious
fund
reasons? Or?
youth and family, and actually Catholic Charities is a sub-recipient of that funding. And so we're going to leverage that into a $150,000 emergency shelter grant, providing additional funding. So Catholic Charities is going to get the money just through the emergency shelter grant, not through,
Okay,
not
from
through
we're going to
CDBG.
take it out of a different pocket.
Going to take it
then.
out of a different pot. So we're just going to.
Okay. Lehigh Valley Community Land Trust, Housing Rehab, they had requested $200,000 and there was no recommendation. Why was that?
We feel they are sufficiently funded for this year, and next year they'll come back in and get additional funding.
Okay.
There's previous years of funding for the land trust that they haven't spent yet, and so we want to make sure that we don't raise any red flags with HUD, and they're reaching that threshold. So we want to make sure that while they're still funded, because they have at least a couple $100,000 in the backlog, which they're very quickly getting rid of, I might add. That if we fund them this year, that would raise red flags with HUD because of the backlog.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Now they'll take care of that this year, and next year it'll be perfectly great to just move forward.
Yeah, that's government is if you don't spend the money.
Right.
you-
Use it or lose it.
You're right. The other question I had was another acronym that I don't recognize, LVCIL, PLACE program. What is that?
Lehigh Valley Center for Individuals with Disabilities.
For independent living.
Independent living, excuse me.
Okay.
It helps individuals with disabilities, particularly military veterans, find housing.
Okay. And the other final question is, I see there's a couple of foreclosure mitigation programs. Most of that came out of the 2009 housing crisis issue. Is that still a problem that we're seeing? I haven't read much about that lately, is it?
As a matter of fact, we're addressing another problem with senior citizens with this. It's the reverse mortgage dilemma, which is causing more seniors to be in foreclosure, which is becoming a very significant problem. And we're one of the first counties in the area to tackle that and actually go after it and put a safety net under senior citizens, make sure they don't lose their homes. So
This is the first time I've heard of it. I see Tom Selleck hawking it on
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, right.
cable TV.
It's poisonous to seniors.
So does the Fonz. He's doing it.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Don't fall for it, Bob.
I'm not.
What is the problem? I mean, I mean, this couldn't be an issue that I have never heard of. What specifically is going on?
They outlive their home. They
with
outlive the money.
reverse mortgages that
They're
were.
draining all their assets out, and once the asset of the home is out,
They're gone.
you can't make the payments. They're in foreclosure. So these mortgage companies actually grab the senior citizens' homes. So we're going to put a safety net underneath that and have the project be able to do foreclosure mitigation and being able to put attorney at the senior citizen side. So to stop these actions of foreclosure.
Does that happen if you outlive your equity, or I'm
Yes.
still not?
Let's say you have a small home and
Yeah.
you get a reverse mortgage for $50,000 and you're in there for like 10 years.
Mhm.
You pretty much have worn out all the equity. And it's not for the lifetime. It's only for the lifetime of the money that you have in the house. And seniors aren't aware of that, and they're being taken advantage. And it's a predatory loan. These people are hawking these things at the seniors, and it's predatory towards them because
Wow.
it drains all their assets. We're having more foreclosures with senior citizens than you can imagine. So we're going to take a bold step on this, put a safety net under the senior community, and hopefully put an end to this, and educate the seniors. Don't do this.
And we're also working with the low to moderate income earners who just run into foreclosure issues that need to be dealt with. Our recipient, North Penn Legal Services, has a huge backlog of these people who really need help, and it just, there's only so much money and there's only so much time. So we're trying to support them, we're trying to support the low to mod as well as the seniors, and try and shore it up for Northampton County.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I hadn't heard that, and I wish somebody would look into that. We used to have investigative reporters that might have picked up on something like that. And then the last question I had is, what is Slate Belt Rising?
Slate Belt Rising is the neighborhood partnership program that is run by the Community Action Committee of Lehigh Valley. It's a replacement for the Slate Belt Community Partnership.
Okay, all
And
right.
so there's 4 communities that work under Slate Belt Rising, but it can involve other communities up there. But right now, it's Portland, Bangor, Penargil, and Wingate. Did I get it right? All right. I get a gold star today. So that was the replacement for the community partnership that just kind of fizzled out. And Alan Jennings got a grant from the state. This is the first time that a multi-municipal grant for neighborhood partnership program has been awarded in the state. So it's a very exciting opportunity for us. We're also coordinating with like Upper Mount Bethel Economic Development Council and a few other organizations up there to try and tie everything together and keep them multi-municipal in their activities.
Well, thank you.
Sir.
So, just so I understand, for your shop is getting, if I'm reading this right, $104, almost $105,000 for administrating this program. Is that how I should read that?
Yeah, essentially, that's, we get that money to administrate the program, but some of it gets sent out to consultants because we don't know it all. And a consultant's almost essential when you're dealing with HUD. And so we have a really good consulting group that helps us make sure that, and we've used them 3 or 4 times that have just gotten out of really deep holes we were in because we didn't know. And so their connection to us is life-saving. But it also includes supporting other activities that have to do with portions of Frank's salary. What else did they go with?
Portions of yours,
Portion of
for the
my
secretary,
salary.
indirect costs for rent, heat,
Right. So there's a chunk of money that comes not into the county, but into the IDIS system, and then we draw it down as need be, and there's an annual draw of, what was the last year, $70,000, and that goes right into the county coffers, and that is compensatory for our work on HUD. And then we always carry a balance in case something happens, we need to reprogram funds, we can shore up circumstances that are.
Yeah, we try to budget for a little contingency just in case, because every construction project always has a problem, there's always an issue.
Does that answer your question, sir?
It does.
The name Recovery Revolution is in my head. We deal with them, something they do with us?
They're a clinic up in the Slate Belt, and they provide services for like people with opiate addiction and other kinds of services.
Are they also applying for the jail? That what I'm reading?
That I don't know. It may be, but I'm not sure.
There's no problem with that, is there?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No. Finite amount of money, really good
I
projects
didn't know.
this year.
Just thought I'd ask. It's
And
conflicts.
boy, it was tough decisions because
Okay.
we love to fund everybody, but man, oh man. When you have that $2 million gap, it's really tough.
To be clear, we didn't recommend.
No.
Oh, we
Yeah.
didn't. Okay.
Not for this program.
All right.
There was
Thank you.
there were too many new, especially new municipalities that participated this year, and the heavy focus this year is on ADA and providing access, and so there was a lot of need out there, including with the county. So this is how it fell out. You know, once you get down, you remember once you get down below that line, there's nothing in the pot for that lower.
Are we doing that again?
Is this ADA, is that for the most part, except for where it says buildings, is it a lot of this, maybe it's not, because I looked at a lot of the boroughs and they all have, for the most part, a curb cutout.
Oh, yeah, no,
For
this is for
wheelchair.
like municipal buildings. If
Yeah.
you have a municipal building but you don't have access, you need a ramp done, or you need electric doors because people can't get in because of the configuration, things like that. That's all included in this. And for the county, there's really critical access areas that need help because it's been that way for a long time. No one's ever put any money toward it. So.
Like building a silo on a farmhouse.
Could do that.
Yeah.
And as I just want to offer some disclosure here, so the Wesley Church grant that's in here actually is the church I go to, so on the backpack drive that they have that goes on. So I'd actually encourage anyone that wants to go and help out on, I think it's Saturday, August 19th. They give out about 2,000 backpacks to needy kids throughout the Lehigh Valley. And in the backpack are full of supplies, but they also have basically a full day event. They do, the police are there to do like fingerprint, and stuff, ID cards for them. They give out socks, underwear. They even do haircuts and stuff so the kids can go to school. So,
And Second Harvest Food Bank has been doing a backpack buddies program for some time, and it's easy to see what an impact it has on the kids. And it's really critical because I just saw a thing on TV where they said that a very high percentage of kids, like 85% of kids in the urban areas, are just at a loss over the summertime because they they can't go to school, they're not getting lunches, they don't have an activity, and so it puts them in a bad state. So when you have programs like the Backpack Buddy program that can shore them up and help them out and keep them, out of trouble and into some kind of positive activity, we think that's a good thing.
Okay. On to hotel tax.
That's going to be very brief. I talked to you last time about the hotel tax. Most of my paperwork is not here. And basically, there are three things three options that you guys can select from. One is to continue the current award structure, and that is give the hotel tax 2005 funding. It's about $316,000 a year to a large organization that might be able to do monumental things like ArtsQuest. Then the second option is multi-year new facilities or marketing-focused programs. And that meets the legislative criteria, and that's the one that DCED recommends. We recommend doing multi-year grants, no more than 3 to 5 years. The last grants were for 10 years. And there was very little monitoring. I think reports were voluntary. And we just don't do that now with all of our grants and all of the money that comes out of DCED that's directed through, by the council. We put agreements with everything, and we put in scope of work, and we put in, sources and uses of funds, and we expect to be able to monitor those funds. And so if you stretch that out much beyond 3 to 5 years, it makes that a really challenging issue for monitoring those programs. In addition to which, by limiting the grants, you're going to be able to give more grants to more organizations and spread the wealth, as it were. So our suggestion is option 2. Option 3 would be to create a mirror program to the 2000 hotel tax program, but that would have to be limited to capital projects or marketing activities that promote regional tourism, because that's the legislation. So our recommendation is that you approve option 2, which is the multi-year new facilities or marketing-focused programs. If we have your direction, then in August we will provide a resolution and establish the program, provide you with all of the details. And I've done extensive research, and any of these options can work. However, that's our recommendation.
I have a question.
Yes.
Peg. You say this 05 taxes are up to $316,000 a year now?
Yes.
It averages 316. You only
That's
have
what we're expecting the average.
you only have-
The current balance is 430,000.
right, because
less
we
50
haven't
you gave.
we haven't given anything out for a little bit because
Right. We're this year's award has not been made because it ended in
right,
August.
and Da Vinci was paid off early in the other one. So we really could give 3 awards of $100,000 apiece with the way the hotels are coming online and increasing. I mean, you have 2.
You could.
If we
We're-
did number 1.
You could, sir. We're
Okay.
recommending that you wait, that we run that program in the fall of this year and make awards starting January 1st.
Now, if we did number 2 that you're recommending,
Yeah.
multi-year new facilities for marketing-focused programs,
Right.
I mean, obviously we have to meet the legislative, what enacted the law, but within that, if somebody comes here like another, fish tank or something that's really, really moving along, and we wanted to make a multi-year grant to them,
You have
I mean,
that
with
program.
$316,000 a year, you're only projecting $200 on your thing here. We have a lot of money. We have the ability to do a longer term.
316 so we expect 316,000 or more every year.
Well, there's more hotels coming online. I mean, if Da
That's
Vinci goes in Easton, there's going to be two more hotels down there. I mean, actually,
So
The
anything that
Estonians
would be
actually-
carried over, if you start the first year, for instance, with 300,000, in the second year, whatever would carry over from the past year that wasn't spent could carry
Right.
over into the next year until you reach a point where you could do a multi-year grant off
Right.
of that amount.
because a lot of this 316,000 is coming from things like what we invested in. The Music Fest, that whole thing down there with all the people
Sure.
they bring here and all the hotels that were built. Since this came online, there's got to be 10 more hotels around there, including the Sands, because the Sands wasn't even built then. Or was it started? We were digging ground when...
No, Sands wasn't there at all.
No.
Yeah, that's right. Remember when Jeff was a mud puddle with all kind of toxic waste? He said, "I'm going to build this here," and everybody looked at him like he was nuts. But yeah, so there is I don't know. I personally like your option 2 and your recommendation, as long as I mean,
Well, you always have the option to make exceptions or to direct DCED in its grant
Right.
award. It's just that establishing a program and having rules and regulations and guidelines so that people who are applying to it understand it from year to year makes it
Right.
easier for them to apply.
but as soon as you put this out that there's 300,000, I mean, you just put 200,000, and they're already knocking at the door for every project they think's worthwhile, and half of them
Sure.
aren't.
Yeah,
you know,
our
and
CDBG raises the $3 million in asks for every 1.3 million we get. So yeah,
Right.
it works that way with just about every grant program.
because like ArtsQuest, when they got their 100,000 a year, they leveraged that into millions of dollars worth of investment. They were here to a report a couple of years ago.
Right.
Well, Jeffrey Parks came, I think,
Yep.
with that.
The difference is that now, because our policy is to do agreements and contracts and make sure that
Right.
everything's understood up front, and that DCED's responsibility is to monitor those agreements and those organizations.
Right.
It's not like saying, here's $100,000 a year for the next 10 years. If you get a chance, come and tell us how it's going.
Well,
It's not going to work like that.
the reason why you guys, John, voted for
I did
Peg,
vote for it.
voted for ArtsQuest was because you didn't really know what was going to be.
Right.
And it isn't like we're building this, and hey, by the way, we bought 27 bricks. Here's an invoice for the bricks we bought for our project. It was a long-term, good faith thing that we helped
There's a
them
lot
run
of
the
good
building. We gave them. It was used for everything, so it wasn't like it
And we
wasn't
think those
boxed in.
Those kind of grants are great, but we suggest capping it at about 5
Yeah.
years, just
Yeah.
to
Right.
make sure that the project. And there's nothing could say at the end of the 5 years you don't give them another 5-year grant. If that's
Yeah, but then they
got to
come crawling back and back. But I mean, with PBS, I mean, we all had our meeting at PBS at the studio, and that was great. I don't think anybody here knew how many people put to work there with the commercials and everything that happens there, because you don't really see it.
Right.
You know, And they're all in good families, they don't need the money anymore, and I know everybody's into new projects, but we may need the ability to not have this ironclad, this is exactly what you're doing with the grant we're giving
I
you.
strongly recommend that you think very carefully before you go down that road.
Why, because ArtsQuest works so well, or what?
No, because ArtsQuest is one.
2. You had the PBS 39
is 2.
also.
So now you have 2, and you're going to spend $316,000 a year for apparently multiple years if you choose option 2. And if you don't have monitoring, and if you don't have required reporting, and if you don't have a knowledge of what the money is to be spent for up front, you're risking that money isn't spent appropriately.
Yeah, it gets squandered. Yeah, I understand having some kind of figure, but there may be some, there may be some gray area, depending on what comes in front of us. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and as I say, you always have the flexibility to tell DCED, in this case, we'd like you to do such.
Oh,
and
we
make
will.
exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
That's your.
Yeah, and we will.
And we're happy.
Guaranteed.
To comply.
So, because there's a lot of things in the pipeline, and
A lot of good things.
I don't want to fund a pipe dream, but I want to fund things that are actually,
Right.
going. So,
No risk, no reward.
but I agree with you on the option 2, since if you have the flexibility to do, like, maybe they do one grant for $100,000, for 7 years or whatever comes, that we have that ability.
Well, the advantage you'll have, too, is that because we're not running the program till the end of this year and then payments are next year, it'll be able to be paid on invoice. So instead of
Right.
just giving out the funds and saying, we hope you use them well, we'll know exactly how much money's going out, exactly what's coming in invoice-wise and how it's being paid,
Oh, and that was my
how it's being used.
That was my second thing. We have $430,000 in there now, and that's great. And I like that we have money in the bank. I hate the way we run the gaming authority and how we give money away and we say, oh, we're going to get a check and then we'll give you your money. We shouldn't give anybody any money so the money's in the bank.
Just to be clear, Ken, that 430
Is $393.
will be in there at the end, or that it'll be there at the end of the year.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's after we get all of this.
we don't have to use the 430. We could cap it at whatever, like say it's 316 and that's the average. We could just say there isn't 430 there. I mean, there is. We know there is, but it's only 316 is what we're granting. Right.
At the end of the year.
Right. If the trends of hotels,
We'll
I mean,
never have to
go.
worry about that moving forward
Right.
because we're giving money in the following year.
Right.
So we'll know exactly what's in the account.
Which
at the
would
end of
be,
the year.
which would be great, because I don't like spending money we don't have on speculation. I think that's ridiculous. So I think that's great.
And when you talk to people about how we do it, giving money out on speculation, they can't believe that we do it that way.
Well, it drove me nuts at the gaming authority, because, every time it's like, okay, we got this money. Karen knows, and we have all this money coming in, quote unquote. If everybody comes on the buses and gambles and we're going to give these grants out, we don't even have the money in the bank. We should all do this way. So I highly recommend we do everything that we give grants out with money that we actually have on hand from this point forward.
Sit on half of the grant money that comes in and save it up for.
Well, we're sitting on the casino because there is no money coming in, so that's great. So that'll wash itself out here for a little bit.
Everybody's going to wash this stuff out permanently.
Well, yeah, because the state will take it and you'll never see it again.
So I guess my question is, do we need to adopt some sort of resolution or
If
an
you indicate
ordinance
to us that the
defining-
committee recommends option 2, then we will
Yeah.
have a resolution and everything prepared for the August meeting.
Okay, and then my next question is, will it include, and I completely agree with what you're saying, defining the maximum length of time as well as a maximum dollar amount? That will be
Yeah.
included as part of,
That's what we would recommend, yes.
okay, yeah, because would that be what's
It'd
written
be like
down in?
150,000 would be the maximum, but you'd be able to give that over 3 to 5 years. 5 years would be the maximum, and then someone could always reapply. There's no prohibition for reapply, especially if they're being successful with it. If you get another ArtsQuest, at the end of the 5th year, you can,
Right.
up
Yeah,
the
but
ante if it's
I agree with you that we can't put something on autopilot for 10, 20, or even 30 years, which some people are already asking for. But yeah, I would support option 2 as well, and resolution or, I don't know if it's an ordinance or resolution
No,
that we
it's
want
just
to do.
if we have a consensus from the
Yes.
committee, then.
Yeah, well, we're here, which Seth's here. I'm sure he supports option 2 also, because he loves,
Okay.
No, Seth is, and John is, and Peg is. And
Gaming's been rolled into the budget, and they have 3 days 4 days, 3 days.
Yeah, we're not talking
to
about
do the
gaming
budget.
now.
Yeah.
And
We're talking about
until they
this.
do that, we have no
Stay
idea
directed.
what's-
This is the hotel tax.
We're talking
still-
about hotel tax. Stay
Which
directed.
option do you want? One, two,
Go ahead.
two?
Two?
Sounds like everyone wants to.
Your mic.
I got a question.
Uh-oh.
When we talked to, Matt Dietz and I talked to Lynn, and I cannot remember the other gentleman's name.
Joe Moore.
Yeah, Joe
Joe.
Moore. You know, basically, you know, obviously they're looking for us to eventually make a commitment for money. They weren't, to their credit, they weren't doing it at that time. They were setting the table. And, you know, I think Matt and I mostly said, you know, we're not going to go into debt for it, and we're not going to pay property taxes for it. I had an idea, and then he says, well, we're working on some packages, alternatives that the county could use. And I did say, I don't want to see them until Tim and his team has seen them, and Tim will come back to us
And
with
let's
what
review.
his recommendations are. So I told Joe, don't come to me,
Right.
go to you.
And we're in touch with them all the time.
Yeah.
We have meetings at
But-
least once a month, so.
Yeah. Oh, do you,
Stay updated.
because I'm looking at option one,
Okay.
like we did for Arts Quest
Right.
and Channel 39, where we do make a commitment for multiple years.
Right.
Would that, are you thinking, and if you could tell me this at this point,
Right.
are you thinking that that would be a source that we could help Da Vinci out?
There's
that
no reason you couldn't use the hotel tax 2005 for Da Vinci. It qualifies as a tourism-related activity. It would certainly probably be a capital activity, and that's included under the legislation. I would recommend that if you chose, you wouldn't need to choose option one in order to do that. You could choose option two and give them the maximum, like $150 a year for 5 years.
Right.
And at the end of that, you could choose to extend it, or the council could decide that from there forward, you want to give them all the money. I mean, it's really, council has the ability to change the program and do whatever you like. My recommendation would be, start them off with something and then go from there, because
And I
our
concur.
recommendation for option two is to spread the money out a little bit and get some other projects going. There are a number of projects, as
Yeah.
you know. There's some marketing projects that are really interesting. There's capital projects that are very interesting, and they're relatively new program ideas that could move things very much forward in the county. And so our recommendation is give those a shot in the first period, and then at the end of a period where if you want to fund Da Vinci, let's say at $150,000 or $100,000 for 3 years, and at the end of that, make a decision and just say, okay, so everything we haven't committed for the next 2 years, and moving forward, we're going to. You have that ability. Just
Can-
because you choose option two does not keep you from doing it.
Can we renew it with the way the grant's supposed to be as a new project? Can you renew it, though?
I would think we can extend it. We could make an extension.
It would have to be extended, because now,
Call it an extension.
I like,
Okay.
the reason why I like the short term is because it doesn't take a construction project 10 years to build.
Right.
And if it does, it's not a construction project. So I like that, and it's supposed to be for building something to draw people.
Or
So
the marketing,
and-
marketing that helps regional tourism. So I'm assuming, Mr. Phillips, that you're not thinking of just giving them the money and saying, use it as you
No.
need. You agree that it must be a capital project or a marketing
Right,
project?
and I exactly, and I do want to say something that's been on my mind since Ken brought it up, and I know Ken concurs with me, is I don't want anything I said here to indicate that I'm not in love with how you guys are starting to manage the grants. I think that's like a real feather in your cap. It's something that we
Thank you.
didn't do before. You're doing it now. I'm absolutely in love with it.
These guys.
I like where I could go down, and I do this, you know that,
Yep.
Tim. I could go down and I could talk to Karen, and she could show me the book with the
Absolutely.
contracts.
And
where
anybody
we're
is
at,
welcome to
the
come and
ding.
do that, too.
That's what I like, so I know
We'll
that.
take your name off the seat we put down.
But my point is that
You get a break.
I know that those shorter term things, are good.
Yeah.
And I would never envision that we would say to Da Vinci, we'll give you $100,000 a year for 5 years, and we'll see you at the end of the 5 years. No, we never. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can certainly, because council has the final say, you can direct DCED to use that program in any way as long as it meets the legislation. And that would be presumably a process that would meet
Right.
the legislation. So we're very amenable to that.
Has Joe come back to you? If I ask one more question, Joe come back to you recently with when he's
I
going to
haven't
have
talked to him
these
since last month.
suggestions? Okay.
Yeah, since last month. And so that's the end of the hotel tax.
Okay.
We just want to know.
So I
is there a
think
consensus
the
that
committee's
option
on option 2 with the ability to write a longer term if we need to, right? Yeah,
Why
that's
don't
what
why don't we make a
recommend that?
motion, I'll make a motion
I'll
then
second
that
your
the
motion.
committee recommends to the DCED option 2 that they've presented to us.
Right, and I'll second that motion with the, and you understand what I mean by if there's something like we want to do for 7 years, for God forbid they're building it out for, I don't know what the heck we'd build out for 7 years, but if there was something,
Mr. Backinsell will help us write the language such that that will be in there.
and then you'll also with that motion in second, you'll kind of like stop the fences from being knocked over with 8 million people coming in for options and tell us what you feel is the best option for our money and the best return on investment. Because I like a ROI. I love making money with money.
There you go.
So.
Okay, very good. Now, update?
Updates?
Oh, excuse me, we're going to vote? Okay, the committee will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, we got it.
Thank you very much. Mark's going to provide a brief update, and we'll get going.
You're not talking?
This will be real brief. Just a couple of updates. The 2017 SIP applications are due on the 17th of this month. So we're anxiously anticipating those. We expect probably double the amount that we're going to have to be able to award. The 2017 Affordable Housing Trust Fund application period is going to be opening on Monday, July 10th, and applications are due on September 15th. And we're expecting to be able to award about $200,000 through that program. I also wanted to point out we have been working closely with our partners to deliver quality affordable housing projects. We kind of touched on this earlier. The Led Grant previously discussed will help our owner-occupied housing rehab dollars to go even farther. That owner-occupied housing rehab program has really been operating in a high gear right now. The Land Trust, the Lehigh Valley Community Land Trust manages that for us. And over the last month, we had 7 projects with over $160,000 put into housing rehab. Quick update on the J.G. Petrucci Shell Building Project that's in Bushkill Township off of Jacobsburg Road. That project continues to progress. We've circulated loan documents with them for our $500,000 investment through the Northampton County Development Partnership. And just another quick update on the Green Knights Industrial Park 2. They have received their conditional, preliminary, and final subdivision approvals from Wind Gap and Plainfield Township. That was a major step for them. The next critical step is securing their NPDES permit. That's a state permit for runoff and soil and erosion control. Once they have that, they will, I expect a formal groundbreaking sometime in September. And that's all I have.
Okay, very good.
And
Anything
Karen
else?
has just 2 or 3 numbers to give you because I left it out of my report, so I want to make sure she has the opportunity. Karen manages the Hotel Tax 2000 program.
Okay, just a quick update you. For 2018, which would be from January to December of 2018, when the grant agreements would begin, we have requests for a little over $850,000. We have approximately $450,000 we can award, and there are 37 projects that are eligible. The review committee, and Mr. Werner is on that, will begin review July 14th. And we're hoping to be making recommendations early August to the county executive, then to forward on to you
Thank
by
you very
September.
much.
Yeah.
The way we used to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
right.
back on track.
Yeah.
Does anyone
Yes.
have any gaming questions? Seth?
Are we still in business?
Yes, we are planning to hold a meeting when the second quarter check comes in. We're hoping for it to be received, which would be early August. Historically, it has been received. We currently have the first quarter check in hand. It's $442,000 approximately. That is in the restricted account. We have enough money in the uncommitted account to pay our administrative costs and our insurance and our legal services to the end of the year.
Are you hearing anything from the legislators?
There's,
You don't,
we're
if
hearing,
you don't know
we're hearing
anything,
a
that's
lot
fine.
of things. We're even hearing things about the
They
table
don't
games.
know what they're doing. That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking, right?
We're hearing a lot of things that the money will go,
Yeah. I was in Harrisburg, I think last Monday, for a legislative dinner, and everybody I talked to, I said, don't kill the gambling, don't kill it. And they don't know what they're doing. There's so many ideas out there about how they're going to take your money and use it somewhere else. It's insane.
Our money.
Because there's a shortfall on the whole budget, and they're trying to make up the budget. I said, don't kill the brick and mortar gamers either. Don't kill the houses and open all these electronic gambling devices everywhere and kill them, because that made the MGM sale fall through, which would have been great for us, because we would have had so much more revenue. Because what they were going to do there, they stopped construction at the Sands.
Yes.
We buried all the foundations we were building and everything, so everything's on hold, depending on what the legislature does. So if you know anybody in the legislature, call them and give them heck.
But the slot revenue that was funding our gaming commission,
Is
that
in
is
limbo.
going away.
Yeah,
That-
probably
that-
is
that-
going to go away.
That's going to go. That's going to go into the CFA and be allocated that way.
Which
I've
is-
heard that from Mario. I've heard that. I've read it in the paper. I mean, that's a done deal.
Which is, well, nothing's a done deal. That's with the state legislature. Nothing happens till they actually vote on it and it gets, passed. But there's so many things. If they take the money, we took the leap and built the casino in Northampton County. And then they're going to take it and give it to Erie or somebody else. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not right that we give half the money away to Lehigh County and everybody else right now.
Yeah.
My problem is this, is that they're not communicating with the county. They are not talking to us. And that's what bothers me
They
the
don't know
most.
what they're
Right.
doing.
And that's why I want our people here who are being affected directly by it, to have some input from them. And yes, the phone calls have been made, and yes,
Yeah.
we've talked to them. You've talked to them,
Yeah,
I've talked to
you
them.
talk to Mary. Everybody talks to everybody.
Everybody's talking to them. They have no
Brown,
answers. But
and,
have they
Lehigh
even
County.
reached out to you to talk to you about anything?
I've gotten a call from one of Mario's, his chief of staff, to just discuss something that he overheard, but there's nothing better than third person,
Yeah, it's all, yeah.
information to really make you feel as though you
Yeah,
have no
like you're
knowledge of
important.
what's going on anywhere. So that's, we haven't gotten anything firsthand, and only secondhand. So.
Would it be out of line for us to send a letter to Boscola, Pavello, Congressman,
I
Dan,
don't
all
think
these?
it would, but the budget, it's rolled into the budget, and the budget has 4
Yeah,
days.
4 days ago.
Yeah, and we
before it
talked
has
to
be
all of
passed.
them.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
It may be
yeah.
prudent to wait till that happens and then see what they did.
Yeah,
If
see what they
didn't do
put
anything,
in the paper.
Okay.
or if they prove this, then-
'Cause if you see online gaming and all that junk coming down the line,
Then
then
we
make
know.
the phones light up, because you'll have
Thanks.
warehouses
Thank you,
everywhere empty.
Karen.
BGT, yeah.
That's
It'll
all we
just-
have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Tim, I talked to you on the phone about what Lehigh County is starting to do, and your counterpart there, and he's looking at having a master input form for all the people that are applying for all kind of different
Yeah. grants, yeah.
grants.
It's a
and
common form.
It's a
called.
common form.
Mhm.
I understand that he's loving the idea.
Yeah.
The
I've
council
seen
people
that
there
actually,
love it.
I've
have
seen
we-
that in
can-
the foundation world where
Yeah.
they use a common application. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
You just have to tweak it for the various programs that you have.
Yeah.
I'd like to be sure we have those programs before I actually tweak.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some programs that you can do that with. You can't do it with Cdbg because the requirements for that are so distinct and separate from the others. And we've actually been moving our SIP program kind of into a very specialized, because that's made up of 4 sub-grant areas. And so when you focus on facade versus operations, the questions are entirely different. Doesn't mean that we can't do a common form and then add supplemental paperwork to it. And that's actually what I've seen happen in the foundation world.
What we've done through our contact relationship.
We've been doing that.
Yeah, well, the use of the CRM program, the contact relation, is we get everybody who's going to apply to put basic information in. Then we have all that core information. We don't have to ask it on the forms.
Do you have?
Because now we have.
Do you? I mean, I could call up and get it too. But do you have a copy of what Lehigh County is doing? Their common form?
I think I have it somewhere in my office. Yeah.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a priority in the last couple of weeks, but I saw it, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Frank about it, but I know he is enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
So,
I know
like I
the
say,
county- the
right
county
now, we want to
commissioners
make
like
sure
that.
that our programs are in place, that they're well-defined, that they serve the needs, that get the money out to the citizens, and that we can manage those programs. We can do the monitoring, we can do the report management and review, we can set all the information. We hired a part-time person to come in and do nothing but scanning and shredding. There are years of non-essential paper in that office, so we're cleaning that out. But the essential papers, we're also scanning, but we're keeping those, and we're categorizing them and cataloging them so that we know what we have. That's a big project going on, and moving forward, using the CRM system that Mark just mentioned, we're actually putting information from previous grant years into that, so we know who got what.
History.
So when we get an application from Freemansburg, we know how many times Freemansburg's gotten a grant and which grant it was, how much they got, what it was for, and it's just going to make it so much easier once we're finished with that process. I expect that to take the rest of the year to do.
No, I agree with the idea of the general form.
Common form.
The common form, but I think we're at a point where we're just starting to get our act together. No offense to
Yeah.
past, I'm just saying right now. And I'd like to stay on this. How long has Lehigh County been doing that?
I don't know. I have to talk to Frank.
I
haven't
I
had a
don't
chance to-
think that they've actually totally consolidated, but I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah, I
they
think they
are.
picked it up at least a year ago.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's early on and I'm not saying it's a bad
Right.
thing. I'm saying it's early on. I like what we're doing,
Mhm.
and I'm all for the newer ideas that streamline things, but right now, I feel very comfortable that we know we've got our hands on everything,
Right.
we're controlling.
And we are moving that way,
Yeah.
but we're
Yes.
moving towards that in an electronic way.
Yeah.
Because the CRM program, it's a little unwieldy, and it's not really designed for our office, but it was purchased and it was worked on, so we're making, yeoman's chance of having it work for us. It does capture that kind of information, that singular information. So as we go into developing the next year's programs, we can say, well, we don't need this, we don't need that, we don't need this. They're already in the system. All they have to do is come in under their name. They have a name and a password, and then we know who it is, and we have all the base information. Then all they have to do is update anything once a year, and we're ready to go. So in a sense, we're doing that, but we're moving in that direction in an
Yeah,
electronic
but
way.
you don't know if you have all the categories that they have. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
is whenever I
Yeah.
was
And they may
business,
have a- they may
if
have
somebody
a
had an
different
idea,
set
I'd
of-
look at it.
Set of programs.
Okay,
We may be.
I
doing
have
that
it in
now.
the office.
and return your glass.
What's your
Thank you,
glass?
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
Meeting adjourned.
That's all right.
Thank you.
How'd they work?
They worked.
You okay? Yeah, there's nothing like the control. Gee, Karen, thanks for all that information.
37 applications.
Good.
I'll do what Mark says.
Synopsis. I mean, we just want to get a feel. When we sit down to go over everything, we'll go through that. I understand that, but it's nice to get it. Haley and I like to read ahead of time. I'll read them ahead of time, see what's going on. I don't need everything. Just give me an idea. I got an idea. You gotta make it easy on the old guys. Hey, Karen.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah. I want to tell you, I talked to Jen, I talked to Cartwright, I talked to Freeman, I talked to Oscola, and they don't know what they're doing.
Well, and you know what, we just said at the beginning of the project, you don't have to project and get out of projection. We can go back a year. We're already into half a year now.
I was gonna say, it's
If we
August.
wait for those funds,